What's going on, guys? Back with a new video, and today I'm going to be answering some of the questions that you guys asked last Friday. For those of you that aren't in the know, I had some things I had to take care of over the weekend, and I made a post on YouTube and Twitter asking you all to leave some questions that you would like to have answered. Now, before we start, a lot of the answers I'm giving are going to be more off of the cuff and a little less scripted, so if I and a little bit in this video, that's why I'm doing that. Also, if you want to stay up to date with the channel, I also post on Twitter. That way, if something weird happens to the channel and you're having a hard time finding me, you can usually reach me there. So feel free to follow my Twitter if you wish. Link will be in the video description. Otherwise, and without further ado, let's go ahead and start with Toasty Note, who asks, do you think that Fallout 76 will be better in the future? It's possible Fallout 76 could be like No Man's Sky, in that the whole game does get fixed and is actually a pretty polished product. However, I could just as easily see Bethesda dropping it after all of the negative PR they've received from both the game itself, as well as its numerous controversies, like the whole Nuka Dark Rum controversy, the whole nylon bag controversy, and really just the state of the game itself at launch with all of the bugs. Personally, and as I've said in some of my previous videos, I'd like to see Bethesda finish what they intend to with the game, decanonize the vast majority of the new story and lore, and then maybe add private/custom server support for PC players to play with mods. After that, I kind of want them to move on from the game and not really stick with it, because I'd rather those resources go into something like Elder Scrolls 6 and maybe even Starfield. Our next question comes from Kevin, and he asks, do you think there will ever be another Fallout title, either from Bethesda or on loan like New Vegas was, after the fiasco that Fallout 76 has been? And then he goes on to ask if Fallout 76 can be fixed. I think there will be at least one more Fallout title, however, it's hard to say when it will come out and what it will actually be. Meaning that it's entirely possible it may not be a AAA single-player game like the vast majority of the fanbase actually wants. To be honest, I would like to see Bethesda make efforts to recover the Fallout brand first before releasing any new games. And depending on how they handle all of that, I think that will determine if we are going to get a Fallout 5 or if we get some lame mobile spin-off in 10 years' time like Fallout Shelter. Our final Fallout question comes from Andreas, and he asks, how would you feel if Fallout 1 and 2 were remade into a 3D game like the modern Fallouts? I've always been of the position that remakes are great. In fact, I'm sort of surprised Bethesda isn't interested in remaking their older titles like Fallout 3, Oblivion, and Morrowind. I'd like to see Fallout 1 and 2 get remade since the older games aren't as approachable as Fallout New Vegas, though I think, like most, I have some concerns. After all, maybe depending on how Bethesda decides to handle Fallout 76, they try to incorporate their new lore into a Fallout 1 and 2 remake, which I definitely don't want. Not to mention that the games are also very different, where Fallout 1 and 2 are isometric, and some of the traveling between various areas is based on a map and it kind of plots it as you go, where in Fallout 3, New Vegas, and 4, it's all in real time, like your average Bethesda game. For now, though, I'd like to just see Bethesda finish and then move on and forget Fallout 76. And until that happens, I kind of want to wait on any remakes or re-releases of any of the older games. Alright, so let's move on to some Borderlands questions, and these first two are from Tarek and the Initiator, and they revolve around leaked character designs for Borderlands 3. I actually really like the bot jock, as it's been referred to in the leaked images. She originally appeared in the tech demo, and it's cool to finally see what she looks like, and I would imagine she's probably kind of like Russian themed maybe, because she has that Vladov pauldron thing on her shoulder. As for the other two, which are the Beastmaster and Operative, I think I like the Beastmaster more than the Operative. Then again, once we see some gameplay, I think I'll have a much clearer opinion on all of the character designs. Not to mention that we still haven't seen the Siren, which, if reports are to be believed, the Siren is supposed to be both male and similar to Brick. and I'm curious to see what they do here, especially since pretty much every siren we've been made aware of have all been female, with Angel, Commandant Steel, Maya, and Lilith all coming to mind. So far though, I'd say the design for the bot jock is probably my favorite if you guys were curious. Our next Borderlands question comes from Estevan, who asks, which is your favorite and least favorite character in every Borderlands and why? So for Borderlands 1, I like Lilith and don't like Roland, and I always felt Roland was pretty hard to play due to the lack of the 360-degree rotation on the turret. As for Lilith, I just sort of gravitated towards her, though I will admit that I like Mordecai and Brick as well. For Borderlands 2, my favorite is Axton since he was my starter, and I'd say my least favorite is probably Krieg, which is kind of unfortunate in a way because Krieg is a pretty strong character and I like playing him. It's just I think I tended to gravitate less towards Krieg and more to the other characters. As for the pre-sequel, I'd say my favorite is probably Jack due to his no ammo consumption skills and his ability to keep his kill skills up, while my least favorite is probably Aurelia because I just find her to be fairly squishy. This next question comes from Tyler's Tackle, who asks, what is your favorite non-red text gun in any of the Borderlands games? So this one is tough, and it's a close tie between the Borderlands 2 Gatling gun and the Borderlands 1 Double Anarchy. I really like both of these things. They have really high projectile multipliers, and in the case of the Double Anarchy, if you get one on Lilith, you can just shred enemies with it and you basically walk through them. And for the Gatling gun, I really like it on Axton if you pair it with the right relics and the right class mods, because it can be really powerful as well, and it's just a fun gun to use. I guess as a second favorite, I've always really liked the Jacobs Pepper Box, and I'm really glad that it got included in Borderlands the pre-sequel. So I guess if you wanted an entry for the pre-sequel, that would be my favorite non-red text gun from Borderlands the pre-sequel. Otherwise, the Vladov is pretty cool as well. Alright, so this will be our last Borderlands question, and that is going to be from Cold as Brian, and they ask, what are you potentially looking forward to the most in a Borderlands 3, and what makes you the most nervous? Honestly, I want to see what Gearbox does with some of the new gear and how crazy some of the uniques and legendaries get. Plus, I want to be able to get my hands on some of the new characters and test them out, and also see some of the cameos from the old playable characters. Especially when it comes to some of my favorites like Axton, as it would be kind of neat to have him be an NPC you can directly interact with and take quests from. I think what makes me most nervous for Borderlands 3 is the extent to which and if it ends up following a lot of industry trends. Specifically, I kind of want to avoid emotes because, I don't know, I'm not into emotes, and while a lot of people like Fortnite and a lot of people are flossing now, I can't really say I want to see that in a Borderlands game. The only other thing I'm nervous about comes down to the monetization, which I do have some concerns about because I do wonder if Borderlands 3 is going to have the robust campaign DLC that Borderlands 2 did, or if Gearbox is going to go in a route where it's a lot of small things that you can buy for like $5 or something like that. My hope is that it's the former as opposed to the latter. Alright, so we'll get into our final questions here, and we'll start with Plaz1398, who asks, as a whole, what do you think of the current state of the video game industry and its future as it comes to pleasing the community as a whole? My biggest concern with gaming and the gaming industry right now is a phenomenon I think we've been seeing more so in the last couple of years, involving consumers paying more for less, in addition to this push for and towards live service gaming. My fear is, much like MMORPGs, every single publisher and developer is going to try to copy this model at the expense of what people liked before. In fact, we've already seen some early signs of this with Phil Spencer saying service-based games are the way of the future, and that people don't want single-player games anymore. Despite the fact that God of War and Spider-Man were massive sales successes, and would have likely been even more popular if they had been developed for Xbox One and PC as well. Ultimately, I hope we don't lose our big AAA single-player games in favor of live service games. Alright, so our penultimate question comes from MS Kit, and they ask, are you going to get Outer Worlds by Obsidian? The answer is yes. It does look really cool, and I am looking forward to it. But that brings us to our final question, which is from Hope Wizard, and they ask, what games are you most excited for this year? Aside from Borderlands 3 and that we know of, that depends on whether Cyberpunk 2077 and Doom Eternal are coming out this year. If they are, I'd have to say that I definitely want to pick up both of those, along with the upcoming Pokemon games. Otherwise, and depending on what happens, I'm also interested in and may also pick up Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, Metro Exodus, and maybe even Ghosts of Tsushima and The Last of Us 2, depending on when and if they come out this year. I don't want to promise anything, but some of the games that I just mentioned might end up appearing on the channel this year. In fact, if you are wondering, I'm a lot more keen on trying some new things, and you may see some things in the upcoming months. So if any of the games that I just mentioned, including Outer Worlds, seem interesting to you, you may end up seeing them here in addition to some of the usual Borderlands and Fallout content. Otherwise, guys, I think that's going to wrap up this particular video. If you liked this video, feel free to leave a like, click the bell so you can be notified when I upload more videos, and as always, and again, thank you all so much for supporting this channel. Take care, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.